Mark Franklin. I grew up in a little town called Carltonville, or outside Carltonville on a farm. I went to Golden Zones High School, matriculated there at the age of 18. I then joined the 13th of January 1983. I joined the South African Defence Force, 1 Special Service Battalion. Although I met Bradley Litter, so he was the only one on the train from Caldermill through Potch, Wolmaranstad, Kimberley, where we crossed over onto another train where we got a lot of Northern Cape people that came through to Bloemfontein Station. We were picked up with Bedfords and taken to the unit. I had some other mates that went before me, but it was completely different what they told me. It's a strange world, completely strange world that you enter. You're getting disciplined with the same aged person that's been in the army for 1 year longer than what you are. He's got rank. At the beginning, I felt a bit strange to that because I was a little rebel at school. And at the end of the day, I just thought, you can't beat them, join them. You see, the people that I met up with were people that were finished with their first year already or going to the second year. So what they told you about things about how they treat you in the army and stuff like that wasn't what I expected. We were treated in some places very badly, but it was to make you a man. Taking your mother away from you suddenly. Your mother makes you your bed, does this, does your washing, the cleaning, all that stuff. And suddenly in a space of a week, you have to do all that stuff yourself. The basics, when they started that first week or so, where they start building the discipline in drilling informations and getting you fit. And I wasn't the fittest peanut in the packet. Yes, I battled that first month and a half. I had shin splints. It was difficult to go through that phase. But once you go get your fitness up to date and your mental mindset, then it went much better. Then they take you into classroom training where they teach you driving, DNO. They give you gunnery, they give you the radio communications in basics. I would say after basics, when they start with the formal training on gunnery and driving and breaking you up into troops or into your own car, and you start working with the people for the next, that crew stays with you for the next 12 months or longer. And that was the nice thing, the fascinating thing, because you learn different skills, people skills, weaponry skills. Most of the basics, what we did was the R4. I think everybody was issued with the R4. So how to handle it, how to work with it, safety features, distance shooting, 300 meters and 200 meters, 100 meters. That was done on, I think it was Hamilton shooting range. Then after basics, we started with the 60 mortars. But if you don't close the breech block properly, it forces the breech block back to an open position, and that mortar can then explode in the car. I think it was one car that it did do, explode in the car. It's a 60 millimeter mortar. So the first stage when you load it is you put your charges on either one charge, it's like a little horseshoe, or 2 charges or 3 charges maximum. You can't go more than that. And the charges that you put on there are to get the distance, and also when you in wind, then you put more charges on it to get the wind direction, and it forces it through the wind. And then the next stage is under the head, you have to turn and put it on. So the on and off button on the head of the mortar. So once you put your charges under it and you turn the head, you put it into the panel, and then you close your breech block, and then you give the firing orders to the gunner to fire, and the distance what the target is firing at. The first charges you can propel a mortar up to 300 meters. If the maximum charges, you can propel a mortar up to 400 meters. Elevation from the 45 to I think the 75 degree that we used to get it. What's I mean, 75 degrees just to get the height, and the 45 degrees angles to get the distance. And then once again, depending on your charge, if you're going to 200 or 300 meters, you don't shoot closer than 300 meters, but 300 and further. Done 3 charges to propel it to 400 or maximum to the maximum distance. I can't remember correctly. I think it's 500 meters maximum. The second time we went up to Southwest, we all were issued with 90s, Elan 90s and Rata 90s. And when I went on in 85 and 86, 87, and I finished my last camp in 89, and we did completely different things. So we were converted in 85 to tankers, and that's where I spent the rest of my up to 89. The 1,000-foot flares we used, if some of the people got burned, if you don't have it, hold it at the right angle. You have to keep it away from your body. It's got a lever at the bottom that you trigger. You pull the peg out. It's like a hand grenade. Pull the peg out, you pull the lever over, and you hold it straight up, like that. You don't hold it to your body. And then you just release the lever, and it will go up 1,000-foot flares. What we did is you shoot those up, and the gunners and the people on the Elans and the Rattles, and that they then try and shoot those flares down. Just the reason why they do that is if you're in a fight with with the aeroplane, track the distance or the speed of that thing falling. So it just gives you an idea how to shoot an aeroplane or to shoot something flying. Helicopters and that gives you, the following distance. And then you also have the smoke launchers on the back of the turrets. The same effect there. If you go into wind, you don't shoot them, because then the smoke just irritates the gunner or the driver or the crew commander. So you normally use the smoke launchers when the wind is with you, not against you. And that's the maximum that thing shoots is about 10 meters. So you got 10 meters, and also you use it as a cover screen if you want to go out of a fight. Another item I used to love is the 7.62 Brownings, the two mounted, one in the turret and one on top of the crew commander. Because if you don't set the barrel and the timing of that thing, you don't get the firing power that you need out of that weapon. To clean it and strip it, it's actually very simple, and it's a very old weapon. They used that thing in the Second World War, and they're still using it today. So it's a unique, a very old weapon, but it works. Yeah, we used to play around. I can't remember if it's every 5th or 7th round it was a tracer, or if your instructor aren't looking at that, you'll open a belt of 200 rounds, which is not the correct thing to do because you wear out your barrel. When there's time and there's time to play, we open a belt of 200 through it, and sometimes we link 3 or 4 belts and we've got 1,000 rounds and we can pump through the barrel quickly. And then that barrel used to get so hot that you can't touch it. Some days you take your hole, you see how much you can load. I think you could take 23 cases of 200 a time, 200 rounds per belt. So in one exercise, you're pushing through 2,000, 3,000 rounds a day. And then all the targets they set up for you, or we set up ourselves, old cars and old tires and old drums. M26, we didn't do much of M26 training. I think the support troops did a lot of that, although we did the training. We did that, what do they call it, those loopgraven trenches training, where you're in the trenches and you throw a hand grenade into old house and stuff like that. I can recall a thing where I think it was with Boris, where they threw the hand grenade and it didn't go over the little wall, so it bounced back at us. So Boris, when they kicked it out the waistband. So you first wait till it lands and then you dive. 3 counted, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then you wait for the explosion. But it's a unique thing that you can get injured very quickly. If you don't know what you're doing there, that was a M26 practice round, just to get the simulation of the Kazakh battle. And then I still battled to get you out the turret because the strap in the back of your neck, and you were so tall, so I couldn't get you out. So I had to get people to help me take you out, get you out of the ground, and the medics can work with you. But that was the simulation we went through to get the correct training. Yes, I love the 90 also. It was also 90 millimeter, which is it's a manual. It's not like the tank; it's automatic turret. It's a manual turret, so the gunner has to manually wind it up and get it on target. The breech block is lever operated. You've got a lever at the bottom of the breech block that you pull open, you load it, and then there's different commands that everybody's got to do in the turret. The breech block is, you can pull it off and clean it out. It loosens up with, I think, 2 little levers that you push forward. It pulls the cartridge out the barrel. If you hold them in a certain way, you can just open up and the breech block pulls off. You can go clean the breech block outside and wash it, and then put it back in. And it's out the way when they clean the barrels. The distance on that thing is you can shoot further than that. I think the total distance, if you elevate maximum elevation, it can go up to 3 kilometers. And then direct fire is 1 kilometer max. Yeah, you use 0 at 1 kilometer. So you 0 on what's but that is direct fire. If you go maximum elevation, if you have to shoot over a mountain, over trees or whatever, the maximum that bullet can go 3 kilometers. And then you get the 2 rounds. You get the HE round and you get the S round. The S is for soft vehicles, soft targets, infantry, stuff like that. The HE is what you use on heavy metal, on tanks and stuff like that. On the Olifant tank, you got 4 rounds, but you don't always use them. You use the E10, you use the FS round. That's all you use. And sometimes you use the S round. The S is for infantry. Yeah, as I said, you got a lever at the bottom of the you pull it open, then you push the bullet into it, to the round, and then it will trigger 2 little levers and the breech block will close. The gunner will then lock the breech block, and then the firing commands go through to the gunner. On the gunner's handle, he's got a little lever there, and he pulls it from there. If the electronic system doesn't work, the solenoid, then he's got a manual lever underneath the cannon that he will then push down and fire from there. Yeah, you pull it past you and you throw it out the turret, not like the Olifant tanks with a hole where you can throw it out on the side of the tank, but you take it out and you throw it out on the side. And sometimes the top is so hot that it burns the living out of you. And that was fascinating to me. Even in my career now, I like to meet up with different cultures and understand them. And that's exactly what the military did. You meet up, you get into a bungalow of 30 or 40 people there, and completely different people. And that's what that was nice, because the first 12 weeks or 3 months basics, you understand each other thoroughly. Because if you don't get that mix right by understanding your mate that sleeps next to you, then you don't come back from the war. You stay behind. So you have to take the brunt and mix with them and mingle with them and understand them and work with them. The nights that they used to chase you around trees and poles, and I don't know if you did the opvok from the Brug, 20 kilometers chase back to camp with tires and full kit. What they used to do, they used to take you and chase you through that to make you understand your mate, because at the end of the day, you're going to war with him or to Angola with him, and that was the understanding I had of camaraderie and working with strangers.
What were some of the kinds of people that were so completely different?
Yeah, but when you get the cultures, the Cape culture coming into the business, the Natal culture coming into the business, mostly the people that came from Natal were English. The people that came from the Cape were Afrikaans, and it took us a couple of months when the Afrikaans people start speaking English and the English people start speaking Afrikaans. After your full training in that, then we won. You operate as one person, one family. After basics was from March till end of November. And the end of November, that last month in November, was just formations that we did over and over and practiced and all that. We concentrated on how to do the final wrap-ups when you have to go into a fight. Yeah, the linies and the first grad. Remember the first grad if you get into with an airplane, you have to scatter. How many times we did that over and over. Yeah, the biggest formation was the linie, where we operated in four elans together, and we had to be in line. One go ahead and one stay behind, and because then you get shot. When you do the linie, you must also watch that your support troops, because you're about 50 to 100 meters apart, and your support troops or the infantry can infiltrate between the vehicles, that you don't drive over them. So it's, as a crew commander, there's a lot of focus on what happens in your eland or in your tank or whatever, and then what happens outside the tank. Your driver also needs to know what's happening, because he sits in a little corner. He can only see ahead. He can't see next to him. He can't. The gunner, same thing. He's he's isolated. He can't see anything. He just looks through the scope the whole time, the periscope, and then the sight. So as a crew commander, you have to focus on a lot of things happening around you. You don't shoot your tank or your eland next to you. That you don't shoot somebody that's running ahead of you, and then you don't drive over your support troops that are doing the cleanups next to you. Yeah, the B-26 radio and the B-56. The B-26 they used for long distance. That was it's actually the command radio that you can speak further than normally, and the B-56 was the one that we used internally and for our own crews, our own tanks next to, or your own Eelander next to you. Before that, you had each four vehicles got its own call signs and it its own radio frequency. Then you had the B-56 or the B-26 that had a different frequency that you can speak to the command vehicles and to outside your own vehicles. There's one thing you can't play around on radio, because when there's commands coming through on that, it must be accurately and pure. It was well organized. They trained you well to use them correctly, because there's a lot of interception on the radio systems. I can recall the one patrol we did when we did the patrols past Duneni on the way to Kamanyap, where they picked up that spoor and they gave it through to headquarters, and that we following the spoor, and it was 10 minutes, and the Skufutu came past us with about 2, 3, 4 vehicles flying past us, and they hit the contact where they took out 18 of them. What they used to do is also they used to take cattle hooves or donkey's hooves, and they tie it to their boots. It's abnormal to have 2 spurs right next to each other, and that's the way that we picked it up the one day. We actually standing, we stopped to chat and rest a bit, and when one of the people picked up.